Hey guys, welcome back to Willpower Garage. Today I'm working on a 2017 Chevy Cruze and I'm going to show you how to replace the front pads and rotors. This time we're going to do it a little different. I'm going to do it on the old floor jack in my driveway. Stay tuned. As you can see, I've got the car jacked up. Anytime you're working underneath a car that's on a floor jack, you always want to make sure that you have some sort of jack stand, some kind of support under the car in case the floor jack fails. It is very common for these things to fail, and you don't want to be underneath it when it does that. All right, so now that I got the safety out of the way, let's get to the first step. So on these Chevy Cruzes, they use a fake hubcap. The way you get these off is these lug nuts are fake as well. They're just threaded on. You don't need a gun for these. Just kind of loosen them up by hand, and then the hubcap will come off. The lug nuts are 19 millimeter. If you don't have any kind of impact gun, whether pneumatic or an electric, you want to try to take these lug nuts off, or at least loosen them with the car down. It'll keep the wheel from spinning for you. So let's get this wheel off quick. First thing I like to do is I take a pry bar, I get it in between the caliper here, and basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to compress the caliper piston. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, most people have some sort of prying tool, and they don't have a caliper compression tool or a C-clamp, which is the other thing you can use to compress this. But most of all, it makes it easier to reassemble this when you already have the caliper piston all the way retracted. So now that it's retracted, we can take off the caliper mounting bolts, and these are 14 millimeter. Now we could remove the caliper. Don't let the caliper hang on the brake hose. You can damage the brake hose, and then you'll have more issues than just replacing the brakes. All right, so now I'm going to remove the brake pads. Now we can remove the two caliper bracket mounting bolts. Those are 21 millimeter. And finally, remove the T30 that holds the rotor to the hub. Sometimes these can be very difficult to get out, but when you go to reinstall it, they do not need to be really tight. Usually I just kind of turn them down by hand, give them a light little cinch, and then they're fine. Now we can remove the rotor and start cleaning the hub up here for the new rotor, as well as cleaning up the caliper mounting bracket. Because a lot of times, especially with an aging vehicle or a vehicle that's in the rust belt, you will get rust buildup underneath the pads. These utilize like these little metal clips so the brake pads can ride on. But if the rust builds up underneath, it pushes this up and it'll jam up the brake pad, which can leave it sticking to the rotor and cause you all kinds of issues. So I'm going to grab a wire brush here, so brake clean. I'm going to clean the hub, and I'm going to clean this right away. So I'm just going over this. This one's actually really clean. It's not terrible. It's got a little grease on the hub here. A lot of people do that just so the wheel won't stick to the hub and give you trouble if you have to remove the wheel for a flat or anything. But you just want to make sure there's not any kind of heavy rust buildup on here, because if the rotor is not sitting flat to this, you'll get a brake pulsation. And it's not really a safe braking experience when it does that. So, like I said, just a light cleaning on here. Doesn't need to look new. Just make sure it's nice and dried up with some brake clean. I'm just going to throw this rotor on backwards here. And the reason for that is when you buy new rotors, they usually have some kind of grease, wax, oil coating on them. And you want to dry that all off. So brake clean again. Clean rag. I put it on backwards just to make it easy to clean this backside. All right, now we'll put it on the right way. Make sure you line up the mounting bolt there. Again, I'm gonna clean up the oil from the machine surfaces here. All right, with the mounting screw, I like to put a little anti-seize on there. Like you saw, it was a little hard to get it off. These do get a little bit rusty, so this will help down the road when you have to replace the brakes again. Again, this doesn't need to be overly tight. Just make sure that the rotor is evenly on the hub, and this guy just gets snug down. Doesn't need to be very tight. The brake kit I was provided did not come with new clips, but as you can see, I cleaned these all up. You don't want these to be all gummed up. I also cleaned the caliper bracket. You can see down here, it's nice and clean, flat. So I'm just gonna go and reinstall these onto the old caliper bracket. If you do spend the money for a premium brake pad set, it will come with these. And they're pretty easy to install. They really just kind of snap into place. I don't usually put any kind of grease on these themselves. I will put a little bit on the pads, but the other thing you want to check is to make sure that the caliper mounting pins here move nice and easily. There's no resistance to them. If there is, pull them out, put a little grease in here after you clean them up, and it should be fine. You want these to float. So now we can mount this back onto the spindle. All right, I'm now going to run down the caliper mounting bolts. And these are going to get torqued down to 111 foot-pounds. We're now ready to install our pads. On this car at least, the one with the squealer, a little noisemaker here, is going to go on the inside. And what I like to do is, like I said, I'll try to put a little bit of lubrication grease on the ears of the brake pad. Does not need to be a lot. And then the other place that I like to put some grease is here on the back side, and I try to sort of gauge where the piston is itself. And what this does is it helps with noise and vibration. So if you have noisy brakes, it could vibrate in there and you get these weird squeals and stuff when you apply the brakes. This usually takes care of that. So now that I got the lubrication in there, this guy will just slide back into place. Little lubrication on the same place on the outboard pad. And on this guy, since it rides on the outside of the caliper, generally it's on both ends here. Now this grease you can get at just about any auto parts stores. Some good brake kits will come with the brake lubricant in the kit, but they usually keep like these small packets up by the counters. Okay, so then last but not least, usually what I do, a little brake clean, just try to clean off any of the brake dust that's there. It doesn't need to be perfect. I like to try to clean up the caliper in the mounting areas where it's going to be riding against the pads. On this model Chevy Cruze, it also uses these little anti-rattle springs. And what these do is it kind of keeps pressure on the shoes, excuse me, kind of keeps pressure on the brake pads to keep them away from the rotor. But more importantly, what it does is it applies a little bit of outboard pressure, and it keeps the pads from rattling in there when you're going over bumps when you're not applying the brakes. So there's these little tabs, top and bottom, where they go in just like that. And then you can reinstall your caliper. So because we compressed the caliper beforehand, as you can see, it goes on nice and easy. I'm going to reinstall the caliper mounting bolts. And then I'm going to torque these down to 21 foot-pounds. All right, that's it. This is what it should look like when you're done. Got a nice clean rotor. All your mechanicals here are all nice and clean and lubed up. I should point out, you don't really need to brake clean the hub if there's some oil on there. The more important area is the mating surface where the brake pads are going to go on. I should also mention, whenever you're replacing pads and rotors, be aware that the stopping distance on this is going to be a little bit longer than normal until these all seat in together. So take it easy on your stops for a little while till they all seat in, and then this thing should be stopping better than ever. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. As you can see, replacing the front pads and rotors on your 2017 Chevy Cruze is extremely easy. It only takes some basic hand tools, some due diligence in making sure things are clean, some safety with a floor jack and a jack stand, and you could potentially save yourself hundreds of dollars. You know, like I said, a couple things to be mindful of. Just make sure that you pump the brakes before you try moving the car, shifting it into gear, and go easy on the brakes until they seat in. So that's it for today's video, guys. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share my videos. If you feel so inclined, you feel like this really helped you out, go ahead and drop me a super thanks down below. They're always appreciated. As you know, for me to take the time to film and edit these videos definitely takes me way longer than it does to actually do the repair itself. So I want to thank you guys for always watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.